Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Womenstrual, the podcast. I'm your host, Candace, and this is a series of conversations about the ebbs and flows of life and a safe space to discuss periods. I'm by myself today. I feel like I've not spoken by myself in a couple of episodes. So first and foremost, Happy New Year, if we're still saying that. And I hope everyone had a great Christmas, good New Year, and more than anything, I hope you all have been enjoying the episodes, the guests, the conversations. Shameless plug, please leave a comment, please like, please share it. It means a lot. And I've actually, for the first time, watched the episodes back and felt like, oh, I'm not cringing. Like, this actually was good. Like, this actually was a very good conversation. So please, if you've enjoyed it as well, please let me know. This episode is a little bit different. So if you are a podcast listener that kind of listens to the most recent episode, I'm going to take you back on a little bit of a journey to tell you a little bit more about what the Gynae Project is, and more specifically, the importance of data. So for those of you that are new, the Gynae Project is a community interest company. We use data to give a modern day picture of what women's period experiences are like, and use that data to inform content, experiences, and signposting to services. So a lot of the work that we do is literally governed by the information that we've gathered. So everybody that's filled in the survey so far, I really, 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 really appreciate it. A lot of the reason I started the Gynae Project with a survey was because I was looking for my own answers for questions that I had around my menstrual cycle, around the pain, around the cramping, around all of the things, and I couldn't find it. So I wanted to use data to help other women in years to come be able to find some of those answers out. So as a result, we have now collated over 250 respondents for the survey. So everybody that's part of that number, thank you so much. We're not far from our target number before we start extrapolating data. So if you filled it out, thank you. If you haven't, please do. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about why data is important. So in a very simple way, the numbers don't lie. And I think a lot of medical gaslighting has come from the lack of data and the lack of quantitative information that actually validates people's and women's experiences specifically when it comes to this. So when you go to the doctors or when you go to a GP or a specialist and you explain what's going on in your body, if there's no data to back up the fact that you're not alone in this, that's often, in my opinion, where that dismissal might come from. So the data, not only the data that we're collecting, but data generally helps to validate some of that and helps to move the needle forward in a way that's not just all of us kind of rallying around, but actually on a systemic level. And I think why our data is important, and by our, I mean women's experiences, is because a lot of medical processes, and diagnosis and medication was based on male bodies. And then even narrowing in even further why black women's experiences are really important, because we were just not included in the data at all anyway. So I think that for me, it was about collating new information that was a more relevant picture of what the world looks like right now and where the struggles are and where the concerns are and what some of the unanswered questions are, so we can help build a world that actually thrives off of real experiences and a system that helps meet the actual needs of people's actual problems, as opposed to just like putting your finger in the sky and guessing what might be the problem or what the primary concerns are. Without data, you kind of I feel like the mark could be missed. So for me, collating the data really is about spearheading a movement that is founded on women's actual experiences that are happening right now in 2024. We started the survey in 2024, so 2024 and now into 2025. It is a survey that I want to be doing more periodically throughout over time, because I think what's going to be relevant in 2025 may be different in 2027 and 2028, and then again different in 2030. And as all of those women transition, and all of those girls transition into womanhood, it's going to be really important, I think, just forecasting, to have that information readily available so women can see, and medical professionals can see trends. They can see what was happening in terms of women's lifestyles at that time. I know that even when I've spoken to my mum about her own period, she was like, I don't know what's going on, man. You lot are just struggling. Like, all of you, like, by all of you, she's talking about me and like my group of friends, like all of us have got something that is making our periods a little bit more disrupted than she experienced. So even from a lifestyle perspective, or like even a place and time, there's also a difference that's happened there. So it's about how can this data be the information that forms those pictures and forms those rationales and forms those conclusions in 10, 15 years' time. I wanted to also share just some stats that are really important to mention so you guys get a picture of kind of what the data is saying so far. So as of 2024, 1 in 3 girls is missing school because of heavy menstrual bleeding, and missing school regularly as well. That feels insane. Not only is the regularity insane, but the percentage, like the 1 in 3 people. So if you're sitting on the train, between you and the person to your left and to your right, somebody is missing school because of their periods. And that is why, for me, data is really important, because once you start getting into those type of percentages and numbers and facts more than anything, you can't keep ignoring it for much longer. Like, because not only are women and girls being misinformed when it comes to their periods in general, girls are now like missing out on like critical educational experiences. So 2 parts of their like learning is being missed because one part of their anatomy is being dismissed, if that makes sense. So that's really key and really, really important. Over 50% of women that have completed the survey would consider themselves having a regular cycle. So just by virtue of what that means, a 28-ish day cycle is a regular cycle. However, most of them have been prescribed medication for that. So what that tells me right now is that although something is regular, there is still something abnormal about it, because your cycle is the typical length, but if you've been prescribed medication, it means that what you can get over the counter isn't doing what you need, isn't strong enough for the problems and the pain and the whatever your symptoms are that you're facing. So in previous episodes, I've talked about that. Like when I was prescribed medication, I was living my life. I was feeling great. I was just enjoying myself. And then my body started getting used to it. So in that regard, especially if you go back and listen to where it all began, I talk a lot more about what happened after that point. So after I felt like, this is, my body's getting used to this, what happens now? Because I can't keep taking this, because it no longer is fit for purpose, essentially. Also, 61% of women would either say that they always or regularly experience cramping when they're having a period. So if the average period is 3 to 7 days long, throughout that time, you're in pain. Likely, you'll get the ovulation pain one side of it. You'll also get the luteal pain the other side of it. So really, we've got about 7 days in the month to just like be a girl in the world. And I think that cramping pain really for me is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because there are some medical professionals that say, based on what's actually happening in your body, it's not completely unusual for you to be experiencing some pain, because your lining is shedding. So that is like there's likely to be a form of pain. But I think it's about understanding what that pain metric is. And although there isn't a way to say, okay, your pain is worse than mine, I think in a lot of ways, knowing what feels normal for your body and then attributing that to what now feels painful is, in my opinion, the best way to explain that to a medical professional if you need to see one. I know that some organisations have created like a pain chart to be able to help you explain the pain, because sometimes you're like, oh, it's just so painful. But a medical professional might be like, what does it feel like? And does it feel like dull? Does it feel like a stabbing pain? I know most of us, if we're in pain, we'll be like, it feels like I'm dying. I feel like I'm going to collapse on the ground. But like actually saying that doesn't always help. So finding like the language that better describes your cramps is going to be really helpful when you're trying to get a diagnosis, because they're then able to decipher and hopefully signpost you in a way that gives you the best possible result and the quickest possible result. Another stat that's really important is that 74% of women would say that their periods either massively or moderately affect their daily lives. So if there's not enough stress in the world, your period at that percentage affecting either massively or moderately affecting your daily life is it's not ideal. It's really not ideal. And I think in so many ways for me, when it was affecting my daily life to that point, I was going down the medication route. But like I spoke about at the launch event, the next event is coming for those of you that weren't there. I found that dialing into some ways that I could take my health into my own hands. So that's like lifestyle things. So what am I eating? How much sleep am I actually getting? How often am I moving my body? And I say that more so than exercising, because I think not everybody has the best relationship with exercise. And I think when something is branded as exercise, it can often feel like it's not going to be enjoyable. And whether it's that you like dance, or whether you like boxing, or whether you like swimming, or whether you like running, or whether you like walking, or whether you like gym, whatever those things are, at a very basic level, committing to that adds vitality to your body regardless. And there's scientific facts that dictate that moving your body more often does have a positive effect on your menstrual cycle, alongside other things, especially if you've got a menstrual concern. It isn't as easy as that, and I definitely want to just highlight that too. But generally speaking, moving your body is helpful for your body anyway. Also, the last stat I want to raise is that 62% of women would consider their periods either a nuisance, an inconvenience, or a cause of anxiety. And I've done a lot of thinking and kind of brainstorming around the connections between menstrual health and mental health. And especially as women living in the West, there is a higher demand on women showing up as their best selves all the time, everywhere. And that pressure, especially as you get older in life, can almost feel like a real weight on your shoulders. So I absolutely would encourage any woman who feels those feelings to look at cycle syncing. I'm going to do an episode on that at a different stage, but actually leaning into the phases of your menstrual cycle to optimize your output to the best possible, as best as possible, essentially. So, for example, when I'm in my menstrual phase, I only do my essential tasks. I don't commit to anything outside of things that are essential if I've got the bandwidth and flexibility, depending on what's happening, to do so. And I actually have found that syncing my life to the phases of my cycle have made me more productive, have made me less judgmental of myself and the days when I'm not able to do as much as I might have been able to do 2 weeks ago. And in so many ways, I have felt a lot more empowered by actually factoring in my period into my everyday life. It's had such a bad rep, and I hope that my intention is that for the Gynae Project to change what that looks like, because I think for so long when we talk about periods, we're kind of all like, oh, but actually there is real strength in understanding it, and then living your life according to it. And yes, in a lot of ways it can sound like, oh, another thing to do, but it actually has a real positive ramifications as a result. And I can speak from experience and know that I've definitely found that balancing my life a little bit more in sync with that has helped. As I said, for anyone who's feeling like their period is affecting their mental, I would initially, from a perspective of taking your health into your own hands, I would start to think about the different phases of your cycle and how you can optimize your output accordingly. As I said, where you've got the bandwidth and like capacity in your life to do so. But other than that, I think the fact that it's a nuisance or inconvenience is also bad PR. So it's like, what else can we all do to change the PR of it? And when I've thought about ways that, or like uncomfortable conversations or questions that I have about life that might feel a little bit inconclusive, I go to my community. Like my friends, I speak to them, I talk to them often about loads of different things. Like I'm so blessed to have such a wide and diverse group of friends in terms of how they think, their life experiences. So as a result, we're able to reason on so many different things, including our menstrual cycles. And when I think about outside of menstrual cycle, that's the place that's always been a place of refuge for me. So even when your period is kind of feeling like it is that inconvenience or it is a nuisance, even just picking up the phone to one of your friends and just talking about something seemingly unrelated does help. There's also data to suggest that like hugging someone, or like hugging more people in your life actually helps with pain management. So that's another thing to do if you've got young children or you're around young children, or you can actually, or your friends don't think it's awkward to hug them, because I know as we get older, it kind of becomes, we become less and less affectionate, physically affectionate, because life is so busy and everyone's doing so many different things. But there is data to suggest that actually being tactile helps manage pain. So yeah, I wanted to use this as an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about what the data is suggesting, and also, especially as Black women, there has been decades of distrust when it comes to data collection, because so much of our bodies had been tested on when medical systems were developing new medication. We were kind of the guinea pigs in so many ways. So I wanted to build that level of transparency between both the Gynae Project and everybody that's filled it in so far. And those that have been hesitant, or those that have kind of started and not completed, I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to say that your data is safe and it's been treated with care, and ultimately it is being used to help propel the message of a world that women have improved and routine access to menstrual care and education. So if you've not filled it out, at the end of every episode, I put the link to it in the show notes. So please click there, and it's hyperlinked everywhere on Spotify, YouTube, and our podcast is now available on Apple Podcasts too. It's also linked on our socials, so on our LinkedIn and also on our website and our Instagram. TikTok don't allow you to link that. I don't know whether I'm just not a TikTok gal, but if there's a way to do it, let me know, somebody. But away from that, I just wanted to, use this opportunity to share a little bit more about the data, and explain why data is important. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Love you. Bye.